Happy New Year everybody and welcome along to the GCN Racing News Show. Coming up this week, we are going to look at the hottest new prospects for 2020 with 7 Neo-Pros. Who could be the next Remco Evenepoel? We've also got a roundup of all the top-level cyclocross action, and the road racing season has officially started down under. We shall start with cyclocross though, where there have been 3 more top-level races since our last racing news show, which meant 3 more wins for Mathieu van der Poel. The latest of those came yesterday at the Brussels University Cyclocross, which was the penultimate round of the DVV Trophy. Midway through the race, Van der Poel accelerated, leaving the rest behind to battle it out for second place. And taking that honour was Ellie Isabit, who in the overall standings will now take a 3-minute 37-second advantage over Van der Poel into the final round on February the 8th in Lille. In the women's event, Ceylin del Carmen Alvarado really is on fire at the moment. A small crash for her in the first third of the race saw Anne-Marie Vorst take a small advantage, but Alvarado was soon back up and literally running and would go on to take the win by 9 seconds over Vorst. That kept up her perfect record in 2020 so far. She also won the previous round of the DVV Trophy, the Grand Prix Sven-Nys on New Year's Day, and at Gullegem on Saturday. She's also leading the Super Prestige, UCI World Cup and DVV standings, and has only finished off the podium twice in 23 competitive outings this season. A shame then, in some ways, that she'll be competing at the Under-23 and not the Elite World Championships in a few weeks' time in Switzerland. Van der Poel, as I mentioned, also has a 100% record in 2020 so far, winning the same races as Alvarado. So not a bad start to the season for Alpecin Phoenix, the new sponsors of what was the Corendon Circus team. Wout van Aert also raced on Saturday in Gullegem, placing 4th, having led the race briefly early on. He is still unsure as yet as to whether he'll participate at the Belgian National Championships this coming weekend. And before we finish with cyclocross, a quick word about Yara Kastelijn. The European champion had a nightmare on yesterday's race. She crashed once, but before that she'd had a problem just after the entrance to the pit lane, where she decided to turn around, causing Verdonschot to crash in the process. Kastelijn was later disqualified from the race. Now we're going to move on to our young riders to watch in 2020. And it's quite rare for a rider to turn pro straight out of the junior ranks. Evenepoel is quite a rarity from that point of view. And in fact, many thought it would be too much even for somebody as talented as him. But of course, he proved them all wrong with some huge wins over the course of 2019. Now, one rider to be making that very same leap in 2020 is the American Quinn Simmons. Late last year, he rode away from everybody to win the Junior World Championships in Harrogate, which was a fitting end to a season which also saw him win the Junior Gent-Wevelgem and 3 UCI ranked stage races. Now, one of his most notable performances, at least from my point of view, was at the Leadville 100. There, he not only had to overcome a mid-pack starting position in a 2,000 rider field, but also a number of punctures earlier on. So to finish second and outsprint established World Tour pros Peter Cessna and Lachlan Morton just goes to emphasise his class and power. He is yet another young talent with a background in off-road racing. It's going to be very interesting to see how he fares this year in the pro ranks. Incredibly, and somewhat scarily, he doesn't turn 19 until May, meaning that he was born in 2001. #jealous. In fact, Trek have been very busy signing up young talent because they've also acquired the services of young Eleanor Backstedt, another rider who'll turn pro directly from the junior ranks. She has won 2 time trial bronze medals at the past 2 World Championships on the road and multiple medals on the track, results that have earned her a 3-year contract with the team. So expect to see her flourish in the Northern Classics this year. Now, like the Schlecks and the Sagans, to name just 2, it does help when your brother is one of the best in the world at cycling. So not a huge surprise to see Attilio join his elder brother Elia Viviani at Cofidis on a 2-year contract. Both he and the team were boosted by his victory in the Johan Museo Classic as a stagiaire last autumn. He will begin his season at the Tropicana Amisa Bongo, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him take a sprint victory there. Anna Henderson has been a bit of a revelation domestically in the UK over the past couple of seasons. A former member of the Great Britain Alpine ski team as a junior, she is the British Under-23 road champion and she stagiaired for Tibco at the back end of last season. But it was then announced that it's Sunweb who will have secured her services for 2020. She finished as runner-up to Kirsten Wild on multiple stages of the Tour de Bretagne last year, so she's certainly got a decent turn of speed in a sprint. Now, how could we not have a Colombian climbing talent on our Neo Pros list? There are quite a few to choose from, as you'd expect, but we've gone with Andres Camilo Ardila, who really dominated the under-23 Giro d'Italia last year. He won it overall by over 4 minutes and took 2 summit stage wins in the process. So expect to see Andres flying up a mountain near you very soon indeed. He'll be riding for UAE Team Emirates, who've also snapped up Mikkel Bjerg, who has been under-23 World Time Trial Champion for the last 3 years on the trot. He's also made a couple of attempts at the hour record, something he's promised to have another go at in the near future. There is no doubt that he'll be picking up some decent results against the clock this year, but you also wouldn't bet against him making an impression in his shorter stage races too. And we also thought we'd better include the winner of last year's Tour de l'Avenir, seeing as the list of previous winners is like a who's who of current Grand Tour contenders. That man is Tobias Foss, who'll be racing for the Jumbo-Visma squad for the next 2 years, adding even more depth to their climbing talent. Now at 22, he is one of the older Neo Pros on our list, but he's definitely picked the right team with which to develop his climbing talents. Now, as with any list like this, restricting it to a certain number of riders does leave a lot of quality off that list. For example, young Brit Ethan Hayter, who's going to be with Team Ineos in 2020 and beyond, Ian Garrison, Andrea Baggioli and Mauro van Sevenant, who are all starting their careers with De Koning Quickstep, and then top sprint prospect Caden Groves, who will be racing with the Mitchelton Scott team. We would love to hear who you are most excited about watching make their debut in the pro ranks this year. You can let us know who they are in the comment section just down below. Now, as mentioned at the very top of the show, the road season has now begun down under in Australia with the Bay Crits. Chloe Hosking and Amanda Spratt have clearly been training hard over the winter. The latter took the final 2 races and the overall classification, while Spratt had taken a solo victory on the first day of the event. Unfortunately, Spratt crashed along with teammate Lauren Kitchen whilst warming up for the final day, meaning that neither of them took part. The trio had all been riding the events for the Lexus of Blackburn team. In the men's events, it was Sam Welsford who took the overall honours. Welsford is a current world champion on the track in both the scratch race and the team pursuit, and he used that speed to good effect to win day 1 and then place 4th and 3rd over the next 2 days. The last day, in fact, was won by one of our riders to watch, Caden Groves, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether Mitchelton Scott take him to the Tour Down Under later this month. Speaking of which, Mr. John Cannings will be heading over to Adelaide in Australia to take a look at all the new tech at the first World Tour race of the year. That is if it takes place. Australia, as you well know, is currently in crisis with wildfires sweeping the country, something which is really putting bike racing into some sort of perspective. Our thoughts, of course, go out to everybody who's currently affected over there, and our admiration goes to all of the volunteers and firefighters currently risking their lives trying to fight the fires back. In other news, there were some doubts about Chris Froome's future last week, as many media outlets claimed that he'd returned early from a team training camp and that his recovery was in doubt. The original source appears to be an Italian website, BG Sport or Spazio Ciclismo, but either way, last night Froome took to social media himself to dispel the rumours, saying that his recovery is going well and that he's off to his next training camp with Ineos very soon. Time will tell, I guess, but it'll be very interesting to see where he makes his competitive return this year. And I hope he does come back to a decent level, because nobody wants to see a career like that end through such a bad crash. Enrico Battaglin has been given a lifeline by the Bahrain McLaren squad. He was one of the last Team Katusha Alpecin riders still to confirm what they were up to this season after their merger with the Israel startup nation, which left many searching for a new job. The last rider to confirm their plans fully will be Ian Boswell. He was sidelined from racing from March onwards after suffering concussion in March at a bad crash at Tirreno Adriatico. On his Instagram page though, he said that he will be competing in gravel events this year, with more news on that apparently coming very soon. Peter Sagan, the 3-time world champion, has revealed where he will make his competitive debut in 2020. It will be at the Tour de San Juan in Argentina, which we will have live coverage of here on GCN Racing. That said, his participation there was never really in doubt when you consider the fact that there's a Peter Sagan Fondo taking place a couple of days after the race finishes there. And finally, reports last week that the Poggio near San Remo may have to be taken out of this year's Milan-San Remo due to a major landslide were apparently somewhat overblown. Pictures doing the rounds on social media were apparently from 2016, and Mikael Velgren was amongst those claiming it's actually fine and that his dad rode up it with no problems just last week. which is a relief, because can you imagine Milano Sanremo without the Poggio? Wouldn't be quite the same, would it? Okay, that's all for this week. Don't forget to help us out by subscribing to the channel. We're quickly closing in now on 100,000 subscribers, which is absolutely brilliant. So thanks to all of you for your support so far. Now, if you'd like to know how long a non-cyclist, an amateur cyclist and a pro cyclist can hold Bradley Wiggins' world hour record power for, you can find a video on that very subject just down here.